कई बार मिले हैं और हर बार मैंने भारत जापान संबंधों के प्रति उनकी पॉजिटिविटी और प्रतिबद्धता को महसूस किया है और इसलिए आज उनकी यात्रा हमारे आपसी सहयोग का मोमेंटम बनाए रखने के लिए बहुत उपयोगी रहेगी। फ्रेंड्स, आज की हमारी मुलाकात एक और कारण से भी विशेष है। इस साल भारत G20 की अध्यक्षता कर रहा है और जापान G7 की, और इसलिए अपनी अपनी प्राथमिकताओं और हितों पर साथ मिलकर काम करने का यह उत्तम अवसर है। आज मैंने प्रधानमंत्री किशिदा को भारत की G20 अध्यक्षता की प्राथमिकताओं के बारे में विस्तार से बताया। हमारी G20 अध्यक्षता का एक महत्वपूर्ण स्तंभ ग्लोबल साउथ की प्राथमिकताओं को आवाज देना है। वसुधैव कुटुंबकम को मानने वाली संस्कृति सभी को साथ लेकर चलने में विश्वास रखती है और इसलिए हमने ये पहल ली है। फ्रेंड्स, भारत जापान स्पेशल स्ट्रेटेजिक एंड ग्लोबल पार्टनरशिप हमारे साझा लोकतांत्रिक मूल्य और अंतर्राष्ट्रीय पटल पर रूल ऑफ लॉ के सम्मान पर आधारित है। इस साझेदारी को मजबूत बनाना हमारे दोनों देशों के लिए तो महत्वपूर्ण है ही, इससे इंडो पैसिफिक क्षेत्र में शांति, समृद्धि और स्थिरता को भी बढ़ावा मिलता है। आज हमारी बातचीत में हमने द्विपक्षीय संबंधों में हुई प्रगति की समीक्षा की। हमने रक्षा उपकरण और टेक्नोलॉजी सहयोग, व्यापार, स्वास्थ्य और डिजिटल साझेदारी पर विचारों का आदान प्रदान किया। सेमीकंडक्टर और अन्य क्रिटिकल टेक्नोलॉजीज में विश्वस्त सप्लाई चेन्स के महत्व पर भी हमारे बीच सार्थक चर्चा हुई। पिछले साल हमने अगले 5 वर्षों में भारत में 5 ट्रिलियन येन यानी 3,20,000 करोड़ रुपए के जापानी निवेश का लक्ष्य तय किया था। यह संतोष का विषय है कि इस दिशा में अच्छी प्रगति हुई है। 2019 में हमने इंडिया जापान इंडस्ट्रियल कॉम्पिटिटिवनेस पार्टनरशिप की स्थापना की थी। इसके अंतर्गत हम लॉजिस्टिक्स, फूड प्रोसेसिंग, MSME, टेक्सटाइल्स, मशीनरी और स्टील जैसे क्षेत्रों में भारतीय इंडस्ट्री की कॉम्पिटिटिवनेस बढ़ा रहे हैं। आज हमने इस पार्टनरशिप की सक्रियता पर भी प्रसन्नता व्यक्त की। मुंबई अहमदाबाद हाई स्पीड रेल पर भी हम तेजी से आगे बढ़ रहे हैं। मुझे इस बात की भी खुशी है कि हम 2023 को टूरिज्म एक्सचेंज वर्ष के रूप में मना रहे हैं और इसके लिए हमने कनेक्टिंग हिमालयाज विद माउंट फूजी नाम का थीम चुना है। फ्रेंड्स, आज प्रधानमंत्री किशिदा ने मुझे मई महीने में हिरोशिमा से मैं होने वाली G7 लीडर समिट के लिए निमंत्रण दिया। इसके लिए मैं उनका हृदय से धन्यवाद करता हूं। इसके कुछ महीनों बाद सितंबर में G20 लीडर समिट के लिए मुझे प्रधानमंत्री किशिदा का फिर से भारत में स्वागत करने का अवसर मिलेगा। हमारी बातचीत और संपर्कों का यह सिलसिला इसी प्रकार चलता रहे और भारत जापान संबंध लगातार नई ऊंचाइयों को छूते रहे, इसी कामना के साथ मैं अपनी वाणी को विराम देता हूं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Thank you, sir. Now may I call upon Honorable Prime Minister of Japan to deliver his remarks.
はい。昨年3月以来、1年ぶりにインドを訪問させていただきました。そしてここハイデラバードハウスで再びモディ首相とじっくり議論ができましたことを大変嬉しく思っております。いつも温かく迎えてくださるモディ首相、そしてインド国民の皆様方に心から感謝を申し上げたいと思います。本年、日本が G7 の議長国を、そしてインドが G20 の議長国を務めています。世界が歴史的な転換点を迎え、困難に直面する中、日印両国がどのような役割を果たせばよいのか、モディ首相とじっくりと意見交換をしたい、そうした思いで今回インドにやってまいりました。会談では私から
India should play. I wish to discuss this fully with Prime Minister Modi. With this thought in my mind, I came to India. At the meeting, I have explained that at the G7 Hiroshima summit this May, from the two viewpoints of upholding international order based on the rule of law and strengthening partnership with the international community going beyond G7, including the countries from what is called Global South, challenges faced by international community will be taken up. Having conveyed this, I reaffirmed with Prime Minister Modi our commitment to strongly uphold the international order based on the rule of law. Also, Prime Minister Modi shared his thoughts on various themes in the international community, especially in areas of development finance, food security, and climate energy. Views concurred to have close cooperation between G7 and G20. We will cooperate toward the successful G7 Hiroshima Summit and G20 New Delhi Summit. In this context, I formally invited Prime Minister Modi to G7 Hiroshima Summit, and on the spot, my invitation was immediately accepted. Regarding the strengthening of our bilateral relations with India, who is our special strategic global partner, wide-ranging discussion also took place. In security area, holding of second Japan-India 2+2 meeting last September, and implementing Japan-India joint fighter exercise for the very first time in January this year were welcomed as concrete progress.
Now, economic cooperation with India, which continues to grow rapidly, will not only support further development of India, but also creates significant economic opportunities for Japan. In this regard, we welcome that steady progress is being made towards realizing 5 trillion yen of public and private investment and financing from Japan to India in 5 years, the target which Prime Minister Modi and I set in March last year. And we welcome the signing of the aid memoir to confirm our intention.
हम जो एड मेमोर पे अभी हाल ही में एक्सटेंशन हुआ है उसका भी हम स्वागत करते हैं और हमने इस बात पर दोबारा से पुष्टि करी कि हम ऊर्जा और डिकार्बनाइजेशन पर अपने सहयोग को पर काम करते रहेंगे जो हाल ही में एक 300 बिलियन येन का लोन एग्रीमेंट पर भी हस्ताक्षर हुए हैं। इससे हमारा सहयोग और भी बढ़ेगा और हम भारत में कनेक्टिविटी को और भी बढ़ाने के लिए खास तौर पर भारत के उत्तर पूर्वी क्षेत्र में
Fiscal 2023 will be the year of Japan-India tourism exchange to promote our exchanges through tourism. I also welcome the renewal of our MOC on Japanese language education. During our working lunch to follow, I hope to have yet another productive discussion on such topics as the Indo-Pacific regional situations. After our working lunch, I will announce my new plan on Free and Open Indo-Pacific, or FOIP, at a lecture event hosted by the ICWA. It gives me a great pleasure to be able to unveil my new vision on the soil of India, which is our indispensable partner in realizing FOIP. I am looking forward to welcoming Prime Minister Modi in Hiroshima in May, and to once again visiting India on the occasion of G20 New Delhi Summit. I thank you.
Thank you, Excellency. That concludes the press statements. Thank you all for joining.
So that is live in New Delhi, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida have just concluded their joint statements to the press. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida is in India to explore ways to boost bilateral ties in a range of areas, including defense, security, trade and investment and high technologies. And he was welcomed by the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. In their talks, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Kishida are set to discuss priorities for India's presidency of G20 and Japan's presidency of the G7. The Japanese Prime Minister is expected to unveil his plan for a free and open Indo-Pacific with a focus on India's increasingly significant role for the region during the visit. The evolving situation in the Indo-Pacific in the backdrop of China's rising military assertiveness is also likely to figure in the wide-ranging talks between Modi and Kishida. Kishida is in India for a 2-day visit. He is expected to unveil his free and open Indo-Pacific plan for peace during a lecture at a leading think tank in the afternoon in India. The plan is expected to highlight India's significance for the Indo-Pacific, and also the plan is expected to provide details of Japan's policy and approach towards the Indo-Pacific region. And for more on this, our principal diplomatic correspondent Siddhant Sibol is joining us. Siddhant, this is quite a strategic and also important visit. Probably you can highlight to our viewers how significant this visit is for India and for Japan.
Well, Eric, one of the biggest significant outcomes have been, first, the invitation by the Japanese Prime Minister to the Indian Prime Minister to attend the G7 summit in Hiroshima, which the Indian Prime Minister has accepted. And secondly, of course, the Japanese Prime Minister saying that he is going to unveil his vision for the Indo-Pacific from the soil of India. Now, that's a significant comment made by the Japanese Prime Minister. We know both India and Japan have been working towards Indo-Pacific and how both countries can have convergences. But the fact that the Japanese Prime Minister has chosen India to announce his vision for Indo-Pacific is something that will be closely watched in the region and beyond, especially in Beijing. But essentially, the focus was on connectivity. The Japanese Prime Minister talked about how the Japanese government is going to help in connectivity in India's northeast. Secondly, the bullet train, that's the Ahmedabad-Mumbai high-speed Ukraine. The Japanese, of course, have been playing an important role. Both sides mentioned it. In fact, there has been a pact as well as to how to support it further by Japanese finances. So essentially an important remark made by the Japanese Prime Minister. The Indian Prime Minister, of course, talking about how New Delhi and Tokyo share convergences in every respect possible.
Siddhant, apart from the mention of the Indo-Pacific region and also the trade partnership between Japan and India, was there any mention of the situation in Ukraine and China president's visit to Moscow?
Well, there was no mention of both the things, but what is significant is the fact that there was no mention by the Japanese Prime Minister on Russia-Ukraine conflict. Last year when he visited India, he was very strong in his condemnation against Russia. This time there was no comment publicly in his press statement standing alongside the Indian Prime Minister. Of course, the Indian side has never mentioned about Russia-Ukraine conflict in a larger manner during a foreign leader's visit, and this time was also no different. But India has been focusing on dialogue and diplomacy being the key focus. But one thing is for sure that when it comes to China, both Tokyo and New Delhi share their concerns regarding Beijing, but that's not the case when it comes to Moscow. India and Russia have strong relationship, both in terms of defense and energy, a partnership that's likely to grow.
Siddhant Sibal, Japan has been pushing for a free and open Indo-Pacific with a view to maintaining and strengthening the rules-based international order in the region. Probably you can tell us more about this and what was said in that joint communique.
Well, both the prime ministers mentioned about Indo-Pacific. Free and open Indo-Pacific is a message to Beijing as to how it has been aggressive with the countries in the region, whether it's India in its northern borders, whether it's Japan when it comes to Senkaku Islands. But one thing is for sure that a larger vision will be outlined by the Japanese Prime Minister in a short while from now, and that is something that will be closely watched. It's rare for a foreign leader to visit a foreign country and unveil his vision. The fact that the Japanese Prime Minister has chosen to do so, it shows the comfortability the Japanese share with the Indians and how they see India as an important partner in terms of this vision.
Siddhant Sibal, finally, probably you can tell us the itinerary for the Japanese Prime Minister on his two-day visit to India.
Well, Eric, he is all...
All right, so I am currently talking to our principal diplomatic correspondent, Siddhant Sibal, and the Prime Minister of Japan, Fumio Kishida, is on a two-day visit to India. He's here to explore ways to boost bilateral ties in a range of areas, including defense and security, trade and investment, and high technologies. And like you heard from our principal diplomatic correspondent, the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, and Kishida are also set to discuss priorities for India's presidency of the G20 and Japan's presidency of the G7. The Japanese Prime Minister is expected to unveil his plan for a free and open Indo-Pacific with a focus on India's increasingly significant role for the region during the visit. The evolving situation in the Indo-Pacific in the backdrop of China's rising military assertiveness is also likely to figure at the wide-ranging talks between Modi and Kishida. The Japanese Prime Minister's visit is expected to last around 27 hours. That's 2 days, almost 2 days. In India, he's expected to unveil his free and open Indo-Pacific plan for peace during a lecture at a leading think tank in the afternoon in New Delhi. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.